Hey everybody, I'm Dane Sanders. I want to welcome you to Fast Track Coaching. We have been doing this conversation, this idea of inviting folks over virtually or in person to have kind of virtual coffee and chat about moving your business and your creativity forward for over 3 years now. And I love these conversations. I mean, these are a highlight of my week, both in engaging the person I'm on the virtual conversation with, or and dialoguing with you guys about that conversation. And I hope this today is no exception, not only as a benefit for me, but also for you guys. I know it's rare that I ever walk away from a conversation where I don't feel like I can't take one, two, or three things from that dialogue and immediately apply it. And I hope that's true for you today too. If you're watching it live, my invitation for you is to join us in the chat and be engaged there. And also on Twitter, I really want to be sure to take time to thank Adorama for making the show possible. And if you wouldn't mind giving a shout out to them online, that would be great. But today's conversation is with my friend Mike Larson. And Mike and I have been friends in the industry for a long time. And first of all, welcome on the show again, Mike.
Thanks for having me, Dan. I appreciate it. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's fun. You guys don't know this, but before we started this recording, Mike and we had a chance to dialogue in advance, and whenever we get a chance to, whether we're in the same city or we have a chance to shoot together, or together at WPPI, or we've been roomies in the past, we share the same faith commitment. There's just a ton of really cool pieces around life as colleagues, and I wish that for more people. If you're at home and you think about your colleagues, I wonder if even out of the gate we could start by just being thankful and think about the folks that are in your life. They know you, they kind of know your warts, and they know what you're good at, and they can affirm you when you're down, and they can give you good feedback that's constructive when you think you're too big for your britches. And Mike's that kind of guy in my life, and I hope that you have those kinds of people in your life, and you don't. Let's go find them together. But I'm pretty confident today's conversation will be rich for all of us. And again, Mike, I'm just really glad you're here.
Thanks again for having me.
Yeah, man. Today's conversation is it's been billed as a conversation around the gift of focus and the power of focus, especially around your photography, whether it be in choosing a particular specialty, whether it be a genre or a kind of brand messaging or whatever, or something bigger than that, like where you not just come up with a cool brand, but you really are clear on what it is that you want to spend your time doing, how you want to create value, and really committing as much of your resource in one direction toward that. And I know, Mike, you just relaunched your new by the way, that's my puppy, Zoe, in the background. Hey, Drew. All right, we'll see you later. That's my son, Drew. I'm a very domesticated man. Today's conversation is really around that, and I know, Mike, you just relaunched a whole bunch of things. Why don't you talk to folks a little bit? And actually, I should back up. I always assume that people know who my guests are, and I'm sure you guys do know who Mike is. But Mike, why don't you give a quick snapshot on how you got here in your career, what you've been up to, and in particular, lately, the process you've gone through in the latest iteration of Mike Larson Photography.
Well, recently, last year, we kind of split. I had an associate model, which was working really well, and as a group, we were shooting about 100 weddings a year. But brand-wise, I wanted to split that and do what I was passionate about doing, which was a little bit different than what the rest of the group was. So we rebranded them into the Collective Photographers. Everything else is the same people, same groupings, the same workings, and I retook my boutique brand of myself shooting with my wife Rachel, and I, we went off on our own again and kind of have rebranded into our estate and vineyard, and I liken it to it wasn't that we made a big huge U-turn and doing anything different, but we just repackaged the whole branding from the logo, the website, how we deal with and take care of things back onto myself, and keeping though the freedom of having a studio that manages everything, so I don't have to necessarily do all those things myself. We are two studios that share
common resources.
Quite a few back of the house, if you will, things, because I think that it's important to have systems for things in business to keep things simple and cost effective.
Sure. So a couple. So what I'm hearing you say is, how many associates do you have right now?
We have 4 shooters, and most all of them are couples, all but one.
Okay, so 4 shooters, and that are comprising 2 different companies, or maybe 2 departments within one company.
I would call them 2 brands within one parent company.
Got it. And the one that you shoot exclusively for is the Vineyard and Estate brand. Right,
the Mike and Rachel Larson.
Got it. Now, if you guys haven't had a chance to check out the site yet, it's is it MikeLarson.com or MikeLarsonInc.com?
MikeLarson.com.
MikeLarson.com. And I was just there yesterday, spent a fair amount of time there, and I love it. And I love what it is. I love where it's going. Mostly what I love about it is when people land on the site, if I was going to plan a wedding, if I was getting married, I'm pretty clear the moment I arrive whether you're for me or not. If my wedding's in Napa, I kind of need to call Mike. It is kind of the feel it has. Or if my wedding's in downtown Torrance, you're probably not my guy. Was that your intention, to create that kind of immediate filter by hanging your brand on the venue?
It was. I think early on I loved the whole thing of being able to shoot anywhere and make it look good. And gosh, I probably photographed over 300 weddings. That's a lot.
It is a lot.
And just thinking about that, and last year when I made this decision like 12 months ago, essentially. However, through last year of shooting, I realized I started to see the depth in this direction of where I wanted to go, and I liken it to before you're dating someone. You're a single guy or girl, whatever, and you kind of like have some friends, and it's kind of fun to just hang out with a bunch of different people and whatever, and then it's like, well, if you ask someone, would you want to hang out with one of those people all day long? You're like, no, I'd probably get tired of it. I'd want to kind of mix it up and go all over. But then you fall in love with something, and it's like, I can't get enough of this.
Right.
And then you see this depth of like all these different elements that add in, and a depth of that now almost seems like this bottomless. I don't want to call it a bottomless pit because that's going to back.
Well, maybe go with sky's the limit.
I would almost say this: it's almost like a trail that you hike down. I like to spend time in the mountains, or run on the beach, and you go down a trail, and you're like, even though you're like, gosh, I've run 3 miles, like I want to keep going. I want to see where this goes. You know. And I think that is kind of the path of where I'm at now. Rachel and I are really excited, and this last year has been fun, and I feel that I've actually become a better photographer at doing what I'm doing because I'm specifically, Rachel and I are specifically looking at certain things that we shoot, and we're trying to dig deeper into who are the type of people that are hiring us, and what's most important to them, and a lot of it actually, interestingly enough, has gone away from the photography aspect into the trying to figure out putting the type of person that we work with into I don't want to say into a box, but kind of into some type of different way of it's a different type of clientele, and so we're trying to hone in on that specialization of that special group of people and say what do they perceive as most important? How do we present that in a way that is more valuable, and how do we actually add more value, through the whole process? Right.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I've had this thought, just candidly, that the brilliance of picking the venue for you guys, and I'm pretty confident I'm speaking for a lot of other people who've come to your site and with envy and comparison stared and gone, why didn't I think of that? Is this benefit of, okay, if you're getting married at a vineyard, well, there's probably a degree of means, like their budget's not insignificant. Plus, there's a degree of customization because a lot of estates and vineyards need to be, they need to bring a lot of elements in, whether they're utilities just to make the event happen, like rentals and that sort of thing. But also, people tend to put these very unique spins on things, how they decorate a door, how they do the centerpieces, or it just doesn't feel like a generic hotel. Every event seems like a very custom experience. So by you saying estate and vineyard, you're saying elite, you're saying premier, you're saying custom, you're really targeting a demographic of people who care about a certain set of things. And again, it's brilliant, and it's not available everywhere because there aren't vineyards everywhere. It fits with where your geographical location is. But I know there's people like me who look at it and go, oh, I didn't think of that. Crap, Mike picked the right one. The rest of us suck. I guess that's that. Like, and when you're talking, and I know you're in conversations with gazillions of photographers all the time, and I know this question comes up all the time, whether it's overt or you can hear it behind their other questions. When people say, that worked for you, I want to be like you, Mike, how do I do it for me? What do you say to them? Because you can't say, oh, well, pick vineyards too. That's not going to work per se, I don't think. But how do you respond to people who are like, I love what you've done, and I want to do that for me too, but I need it to fit me. What do you say?
Well, I think it's an interesting question. But I would say this, that we have a job that's so blessed. I mean, people feed us cake. How many jobs are you when someone goes by, you want some cake? It's
true.
Most people in the world, it's like, hey, Paul, you've been meat packing and you got to do another 7 hours because we're behind. And it's like,
right.
We're going, oh man, I have to be here till midnight. Like, and I have to watch people dance and have a good time. Like, right. we really do have a blessed job. And when it comes down to it, we've all heard photographers or vendors, when you're sitting around there in the meal and someone's like, boxed lunch.
Right.
Well, probably 3 million people in the world, 3 billion people in the world would die for that meal.
Right.
So, and on the one hand, when I do talk to the photographers, like, I think the first thing that has to come from is, like, before you even pick where you want to go and what you want to do, like, we're blessed, straight up.
And that's true regardless of the genre, right? Like, if you used to shoot surf photography, that means you're at the beach all day. Or
swimming. I was in the water, surfing and shooting surf every day.
Yeah. Or even if you're with, like, I'm a family guy and I shoot in my neighborhood a lot with family people, and I get to be with my family every day. Like, it's funny, this was a side effect that I was shocked by was, since I still shoot weddings and I love them when they come in, but I've really focused the last year and a half around portraits, specifically in the neighborhood I've moved into for this purpose. And I've been struck by how I've fallen in love with my wife more. I mean, kind of a weird side benefit to doing it, but it's because of proximity. I'm just around her all the time because I'm a family guy in a family context shooting families.
Does she shoot with you?
No. She doesn't, but the way my world is set up is, I'm like, I deliver 30 by 40 canvas wraps on my skateboard around the corner to my neighbors, and when I come back, I'm home, and she actually helps me she does help me. She doesn't help me in the shooting. She helps me with in the viewing process. She's a great kind of third party who will come in as we're sorting through the images with clients, and the client will be stuck, and I'll give my input, but I don't want to be overly assertive besides guiding a little bit. And Tammy will come in and just give her honest. It's like she's a trust agent. She brings.
So you play bad cop, good cop.
Well, if we were really scheming, we could. But with her, it's just amazing how she comes in and plays. She plays a part of herself in that dynamic. But again, I'm affirming the idea of, like, we're blessed, because it'd be easy to take that kind of thing for granted. Because I have entitled clients that call up and say, gosh, I really want this, or the holidays are coming, I need this last second thing. Like, yeah, I get to do that and get on my skateboard and deliver it and be the hero who does that sort of thing. Hey, honey. Oh, let me try. Sure. No problem. Have a good time. So, just 1 second. Hey, Abby, when are you getting home, honey?
Pause for this halftime
station identification.
This little break.
Can you check in with us in about an hour? Okay, thanks, honey.
This is a lime from my garden. Oh, sorry, Dane. We're doing a halftime show.
Okay, sorry. So, but case in point, like, okay, so let me get this straight. So my job is to come to places like this and to hang out in the middle. I get my show interrupted because I get to talk to my daughter, and my wife gets to walk in on a sales meeting and you're right. Like, for a lot of people, you don't get to see your wife at all. In the course of your job. And the side effect is, by proximity, I'm re-enrolling myself in my marriage in some great ways. And I'm amazed that I even get to do that. So I'm absolutely with you. Yeah. But there is something about an attitude in the middle of it, how that can make a significant difference on how you experience the boxed vendor meal after you've worked for 16 hours. And maybe you could comment a little bit about that, because I think you're right. We are blessed, but only if you take it as a blessing.
Right. Well, I think it's just perspective, and I think that sometimes, on one other note, before we leave that subject, in coaching and working with a good number of photographers, the thing that I've learned, and I've learned this myself the hard way, I was once, Rachel and I in 2004 and 5, and we just got married. We were $70,000 in debt coming into the business. She had a lot of school debt, and I had a little bit of business debt, and we lived pretty darn humbly. To pay that off, and we didn't put requirements that our business had to make to sustain the perception that we were living all high and whatever, great tastes, and and basically creating a lifestyle that forced me to work more, which then made me feel more jealous or more entitled when I was working, or made me feel like, why are these people not, you know what I mean? So I think that we had some really humble beginnings with that, of just literally just going, gosh, how are we going to pay that? We would call credit card companies and be like, Rachel's in default, and we'd call up one month and be like, can you help out? And they're like, no, actually, we just want to let you know we're raising your interest from like 19 to 29%. I was like, oh, glad I called, And then, between just praying on our knees and just saying, all right, God, like, we need you to just give us some work and give us some favor, and jobs that come in, and the next month, we get two deposits, pay those, call up the credit company and be like, all right, look, if you can lower that, we'll start making payments. And they're like, sure, we'll bring it down to zero and do a balance transfer, and you start making, and it's like, wow. So in our personal life, I feel like our faith really played an impact into how we treated people and how we felt we deserved to be treated. Because the true test of anyone is how they treat people who knew nothing for you. And oftentimes that server who brings you that box meal,
right?
He's a schmuck. That we can think that way of like, why aren't you bringing me something more? And I don't know, we're kind of honing in on one part, but I think it's kind of a more of a symptom of a deeper issue. But moving on to what you were saying in terms of our job and our position, I think that understanding the foundation of who we believe we are in life, and who we are. I know Francis Chan had this really interesting video where they like zoomed out from a town or people and zoomed out to like the country, and then the world, and then the galaxies, and then you saw these galaxies and you're like, I'm just a speck. So when you reckon with a lot of this,
a speck for a moment.
Yeah, that vanishes, and I heard another, I think he said it too. He's like, imagine if the whole entire history of the world was compressed down into a movie, and you were an extra where they saw the back of your head. Split second. And it's like, who was the most popular business person in the 1800s? Like in the 1600s, like in Europe, let's say in France, who was the most talented, I don't know, whatever,
right,
pottery dude? No one knows. Like, but the point is that we have a time in this life, and we need to look at how we're living in our job and our role of being a spouse. And like, you got your kids there, like, rather than being a rock star photographer, be a rock star parent that leaves them with a legacy where they look up and said, this is who trained me. And I think the business realm gives us an opportunity to test ourselves, because there's metrics, there's more accountability. If you don't show up for things, everything's contracted in business. In family, you're not contracted to make the salad for the night. If you don't do it, like, everyone's like, oh well, whatever, we didn't have salad tonight, But in the business world, that's the one unique place that we have to grow who we are. So I see business as just as important as growing our character for the rest of our life than just being this place where we find worth and self-value. So getting back to your original comment of why, specializing, and you asked, well, I don't want to do vineyards. Well, what's in it for me? What can I do? I look at that and say, yes, that's something I'm passionate about, and yes, that's something I love doing. And once upon a time, I was a surf photographer for 3 years, and part of my biggest dilemma was finding SPF 100, because when you're out in the sun for 12 hours, like, you get to the point where you're just like, oh my gosh, I don't want any more sun, Right. It's like, that was the biggest struggle I felt like, in that job. But what the advice I would give to people who are looking at that as as how do I specialize? How do I pick a niche or something? Is to really, I think all of us were created with gifts, and I think that when it comes down to it, your personality and who you are, your what's on your to be list, if you will, is the most important thing, because there is a world where specialists exist. And that's a reason why. If you have, you hurt your, like our Hannah, our little 1-year-old got really sick, had RSV. We could have taken her to any one number of places, but we took her to the hospital that had, the NIC unit, because she was like a month old. And
yep, we were there.
And we paid more, and granted, that's a whole insurance realm, which we don't have to get into. But the point is that there is a room for specialists. They do get paid more for what they do. They do a niche, and they carve it out. There's a room for handymen who want a side job, and that's what it is. But the biggest thing that I want to say is that everyone that's doing it doesn't have to be a popular, bless you.
Bless me, thanks.
Doesn't have to be popular. They don't have to speak. You're totally cool if you don't give workshops. You're awesome if you just do something on the side, and you have another business. I mean, you have multiple businesses, whatever that is. Like, the point, I guess, what I'm saying is that I've seen some photographers I've been really impressed who have branded themselves by a totally unique style of shooting. The way they shoot is just totally different.
Yep.
Max Wenger, I think, is a photographer who does a different style. Yeah, guy's awesome. And there's other people who their styles are really similar, but their personality and who they are stands out so much. Yep. Just by the way they love people and they're fat. I'll tell you one thing. You want to specialize in something? Here's something really cool. Specialize in getting back to a client within an hour.
Well, that's only if you want to have business and a whole, a flourishing career. But if you don't want that, let the call go. That's what I say. No, I'm with you, man. It's funny. Even as you're giving all those examples, you said somebody who keeps their day job but gets to be a photographer. I thought of Julieanne Kost, who works at Adobe and is an amazing fine art photographer, shows in galleries. No one knows it, and she will say, like, I get to do this because I have a great day job. You talked about the photographer has a great local business but doesn't do the speaking circuit or workshops. I thought of Jim Kennedy, who owns weddings in Orange County. Probably his company is probably 300 a year. And he spoke at WPI one year and then went, why would I do this? This is so dumb. I got to go back to work.
There was like 25 people in the room. Right. Not to think bad about him, but just because he wasn't a quote-unquote celebrity.
Right, which is hilarious.
But he has probably a more sustainable...
Oh, my gosh. Totally.
Than anyone in the entire industry. And nobody knows it.
I know. So there's tons of these examples. I'm with you. So if what I'm hearing you say is, well, there isn't an easy answer to it, and some of what you've gone through to get to where you're at is and are continuing to strive towards is just this soul searching, which is really where I want to take this conversation, because you said something that really struck me, or reminded me about some input I got from a mentor of mine a while back, and he was saying basically. There's two strategies on life. One strategy is the do, have, be life. And the do, have, be life is I do stuff so that I can have stuff, and that will make me something. And he said that's a bankrupt strategy. That's what everyone does, and it's bankrupt. I'm going to go do a bunch of stuff so I can have a bunch of stuff, and then I'll be somebody. And he said that the proper order for humanity is to lead with the be, do, have life. So you be who you are, and then out of who you are, you do things. So the doing is subservient to the being. And then out of that will bear fruit. You will have whatever you have based on the integrity of who you are. And I'm just curious, first of all, if that resonates with you. And then second, what do you think about it? What do you think?
Well, I totally agree with you. And I think that manifested itself. A couple months ago, I saw someone's Twitter name, and I'm not going to say who it is, and I'll use a different wording for it.
Okay.
To hide to keep it anonymous.
Okay.
But when I saw it, it basically said, I shoot weddings so I can have two things, which I won't mention what those were, but they were like a car or cigar or wine or something like that,
Yep.
And that's how I love life. And I was thinking there, I was like, gosh, like
it's a little life.
Well, I don't want to disrespect the person because I think we've all been there. I mean,
well, for sure. Oh, for sure. No, yeah. Well, when I say a little life, I immediately thought to myself and how often I choose a little life when I choose to live like that. so
it's like I find myself doing something like, that's what I said I didn't want to do.
Right.
It's like, the verse in, I don't remember, there's a verse in the Bible where this Paul, an apostle, who's basically, 2,000-year-old guy who's writing chapters of the Bible, he says, why? He's like, why do I do the things that I don't want to do? And yet the things I do want to do, I don't do. It's like this struggle of life of who we want to be.
Right.
And I'm a big proponent of having a to-be list versus a to-do list. Because if you have a to-be list and you have that first, and my wife and I, we go on this marriage retreat every year, and we just write down like who we were in the last year and who we want to be. And then we look at how we were in the last year compared to who we said we wanted to be. And we see the progress, but we also see, so that encourages us. Then we see the areas we need to become convicted in. And now that we've been married 6 years and we've been doing that for a while, it's been encouraging because they say it takes 21 days to start a habit. But I'll tell you what, once you develop traditions, like the annual family trip to wherever, it's like if that's not in the book 6 months, out from the trip, you're like, when are we going to do this? But if you never start the tradition, you're going to forget it and be like, gosh, we haven't done that in 5 years. Like, whatever happened,
Right.
But that's a factor of us not choosing to be the people we want to be. And it has to start before our feet hit the floor.
Yeah.
Is choosing who you're going to be. And I'll tell you one thing, like, that's something I got to admit I haven't been able to do in my own strength. And that's where a relationship with the God comes into play, is saying, all right, you made me. You made everything who I am. You're the atomic glue that holds everything together. Like, hold me together, And so that's how my faith plays out in my business. And that's something I don't. It's not something I judge other people by, but it's something that, frankly, keeps me who I am.
Well, it sounds like it's a resource. Like
it is. But you said something soul searching, and I wanted to finish that before you.
Sure, go for it.
Go to the next subject. I would not. I would say soul searching is one way to put it, but another way to put it is each of us were blessed with certain gifts, and we weren't meant to necessarily be a copy of someone else. And I don't remember. There's some really cool quote, and I suck at quotes. I do hack jobs, and I always forget who said it, and I'll say half of one and graft it with someone else, and I'm like, yeah, it was like a Sir Beethoven Bach did that, right? I forget. But see, I even forgot the quote that I was going to say. But the point of what I was saying was,
well, versus soul searching, you were talking about how
versus soul searching, like who we're gifted to be. The quote was, "You can never be a better you."
Right.
And we've heard it saying, like, someone said, "Are you going to be the next Michael Jordan?" And this other guy said, "I'm going to be the next blank blank." And I don't remember what his name was, but.
Right.
But I think soul searching / finding out who you're called to be, because we have a set of desires that when we are really doing those, we're going to be happier than we would ever be in our entire life. So merely copying Estates and Vineyards, or copying the model of, or the exact destination someone else has chosen, I honestly believe if we are the person that we're called to be, it's easier to know what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And if you're in a point where you're doing everything and it's not satisfying you, then I would challenge you. Well, you're probably not the person you need to be or you should to be. And I think that's partly that's a spiritual thing.
It sure is, man. Well, even if you just say spiritual as something that's not physical, like I think it's been really interesting to get in some conversations with photographers over the years. Even some very high profile photographers who just decided, like one conversation comes to mind in particular. Who basically just said, "Hey, this is the year where I'm going to figure out my spiritual life." And I didn't get the impression it was because they had some kind of conversion experience at that moment. It was really because they realized there was this whole bucket of resource that wasn't just in the physical universe, that was kind of overlaid on this world we're in, that they weren't tapping into as a resource for who they were and what they should be, how they should be spending their life. And it was interesting to watch this person walk it out over the course of the better part of a year, and them actually engaging in a faith commitment. Again, I think because it was in their best interest. It was like this just made sense for them, and it added a sense of concreteness and clarity and focus on how they wanted to spend their life. And it's not like it fixed anything; it just brought clarity. And I love what you're saying. There's just something powerful about, the way in Fast Track we're talking about finding your signature or whatever, but there's a billion ways to describe it. It's just figuring out who you are, what you were made to do uniquely, and there's no shortcuts to that process. And I'm with you too. Like soul searching, it's not the best phrase for it because the search is part of it, but there's something in deciding, intending, committing, focusing all resource in one direction around a fit where there's a resonance or an integrity with who I am, so that if it's I've heard this talked a lot about before, but like if a bridge has integrity, when stresses and strains go on it, the bridge stands, and if it doesn't have integrity, the bridge falls. And it's not moral per se, it's really the bridge knows what it is, and it doesn't matter what hits it, it just stands. And I just think of that as what a great principle in business and in life, to go, how can I find as many resources as I can, physical and spiritual, to identify with clarity and obviously we share the same faith tradition. So for us, we are created. It'd be smart to go to the creator to figure out a little bit more about ourselves as a resource, and stand in that. Because there's a sense of like a fit, and I think it's why people like me and others look at you, Mike, and we go, wow, he's finding that move seemed to have even a tighter fit to what he's made to do right now. And when that happens, it's really tempting to go, I like what that happened for him, I want that too, I know I'll do what he did, which is a total miss, because that's like putting on somebody else's clothes and saying it's theirs. It doesn't quite work. That's what strikes me.
Or it's like, imagine if we were all stray dogs, right? And you find the owner that's just right for you, the master, that knows, that sees you, knows how to take care of you, knows what you like the best, gets you your food for you, even if you go off and you eat duck poop, as dogs do sometimes. Yeah. Come back and it's like, no, come on, you really want the duck biscuit, It eats it and you're like, yeah, you're right, And I don't mean to sound like we're all drones or robots, but I think we do have, I totally subscribe to the belief that we are created, and if you're created, then you have a purpose and you have unique desires. And I don't think anyone on this planet, whether you believe in God or not, whether you believe in any creation or not, you're not a duplicate of anyone else. Like, right. Speaking of that, you're unique, you're different, and even though there is, you really have to choose between Canon or Nikon or whatever brands.
Right. The
point is that those are just technical things, whether I do estates or vineyards, or whether I do hotels, or whether I shoot. I know another photographer who photographs. He specializes in photographing UK brides who are getting married in New York.
Right. I know that. I know the person you're speaking of.
He won a maid of honor that came over that he met, and they've fallen in love, and it's just like this great story. And it's like, they've bonded, and here is this like UK bride who's come over, and it's like it's the perfect girl for him. And they've just crafted this whole business around that. And it's like, I never even realized that we'd in a business. Yeah. So it's easy to look around with these like blinders on and go, well, here's the three things that I see. Gosh, But the unique thing about spending the time, okay, Jeff Yoakum uses a term called mental heavy lifting. And I got to give him credit because I've never heard anyone say that before. Mm-hmm. But that was something Rachel and I had to do when we figured out what we wanted. That was something we did with him, but we also did a lot on our own. And we sat there and just, it's not something we're programmed to do. It's really easy to come home, turn on a movie, and just veg. But really having the discussion, not to get semantical, soul searching, whatever you want to have, just the discussion of like, okay, what do we want? Like, who are we supposed to be? Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you, last year I hit a lot of my goals for what we wanted our company to do over the last year. And I actually have several different companies, and we got a photo booth brand as well, and those hit all their numbers. I mean, they hit all their numbers. We hit all our goals, all our volume, and everything. But something inside me just thought, you know what? Like, what was in it? It wasn't like, it was kind of like you won the World Series, and then what? It's not like the world ends and it's like, movie ends, cool, you're done, and you're forever. There's no more World Series anymore. It's like, well, there's next season, and I started to realize, I was like, gosh, talking with my wife, and we did our vision casting for the year, and I'll be completely transparent and say we did it, and we looked at it and we're like, something's missing. Something is missing, even though we have this direction, which we're really excited about. But the big picture of like, all the different businesses and the efforts and the time we're spending at home and everywhere, we're realizing like unless it does something to the person we want to be, unless we have time for being that person, I don't want to just do. And even though I don't claim to be a do, what did you say again?
It's the difference between a do, have, be life versus a be, do, have life.
Exactly. And so, we went back and we said, well, who do we want to be? And we looked at our to-be list, and we looked at it, and we said, this to-be list has to be up, that we see it every day. And if you don't see your to-do list every day, you're not going to be that person. It's kind of like saying, I want to get
it's vision. Shape. It's vision. It's vision about what you current reality and what you commit to cause. Where you're going.
But practically speaking, though, if it's not something that is given time, if it's not, like John Maxwell says, if it's not measurable, if it's not written down, if it's not
I'm with you.
possible, or if it's not talked about, it's not going to get done.
That's right.
And so even before you come up with an area of specialization, but even before you come up with what you want to do, like I'll tell you this, I think there's in any industry there's a percentage of people in there that shouldn't be doing it. They're doing it because their neighbor is.
Right.
And we do that in all aspects of our life. Oh, they got that car, or they got that house, or they got that. I want to do that. And I think that if we really bring people around us, people like you and I have this relationship where we challenge each other, and it's like, I'm not sure that's best for you, because that's something we should hear from our God. But if we make our God this thing, whatever it is, we obsess over it so much, then all these voices around us that become competing, they become competitors to the person we want to be. They become competitors urging us to just do what everyone else is doing. And so I almost see trying to become a better person is almost, that has to be a result of something. That can't be the goal. I mean, that happens because you have accountability. That happens because you make the time to sit down and say, what do I want to do? Like, I don't want to copy Mike. I don't want to copy, Brian Friedman, who does the New York, brides from the UK. I don't want to just do that because it's easy to copy, but unless you do the mental heavy lifting, you never get to a place where you really, and frankly, I think we forget the learning process. We forget being a student. I mean, how hard is it now to learn a language? Anyone? Have you tried to learn a language and it's like, yeah, I'm getting Rosetta Stone and it's sitting right there.
Yeah.
We forgot that dedication and the discipline that we learned in school. And I got an intern that works with us, and he's like, I just don't feel like I want to go to college. He's like, it's overpriced. It's you get into debt. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. Getting into debt's not the way to do it. But I'll tell you one thing that I learned from college is getting the discipline to get stuff done that I didn't want to do. Being when I was paying for it too.
Yeah. Man, I can't wait. I'm glad WPPI is coming up because we need to hang out more. I'm really looking forward to getting some time, and can't thank you enough for being here. I really want to encourage people, though, despite all this conversation about not copying Mike, check out Mike's stuff. Go to MikeLarson.com, check out his blog. There's oodles of opportunity to check around. If you have a chance to get in front of him, to see him, to shoot him an email, certainly thank him on Twitter for being here, Mike Larson Inc. It is still Mike Larson Inc., isn't it?
Yeah. Great. No, it's just MikeLarson.com. But
for the at Mike Larson Inc. for the Twitter.
Yes.
Got it. I've made that mistake more than once.
And there's another Mike Larson on Instagram because everyone's feeds go out to Twitter from Instagram. And so the other Mike Larson on Instagram is just like getting inundated with all these things, which is kind of funny.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that enough people do it so that he'll sell me the name.
Yeah, I've actually become friends with Dane Sanders on
really?
Twitter. Yeah, he's a totally cool guy. But I only met him because people, he'd be like, yeah, I'm not the photographer.
I'm wondering if someday when the social, like, maybe the better way to describe it is the bandwidth of social names becomes so competitive and so tough that we all just start our own club. Like, we're the Mike Larson Club. Like, all of us are Mike Larson. We have similar names. We handle websites, and we can just.
You're ahead of your time, man. You're ahead of your time. Well, cool. If this is beneficial for you guys, please jump on the Twitter and say a shout out to Adorama for providing this for you guys. And I will say, I rarely, if ever, do this kind of thing. But given the conversation today, I think it's appropriate because I really believe what I did in Fast Track Photographers warrants it. But there's just not a lot of opportunities to think about who you are when you look at resources in the internet around photography. There's a lot of photography books. There's not a lot of photographer books. But Fast Track Photographer, the reason I wrote it was specifically around identity and figuring out who you are and what your right fit is. And in it, there's a little test called the Photographer DNA or PDNA, which I hope is resourceful. But I encourage you guys to pick that up. I think it's like $10 or $11 on Amazon or whatever, and the test's included, and you can get it on the Fast Track Photographer site. But take advantage of that. And if you don't want to, because I said it and you think I'm being self-promotional,
I'll say it right now. Get it.
All right. Well, I appreciate that, Mike. The other,
it was a really good book. I think it has. I like what you said because there are a lot of books. I mean, I just picked up, like this book, right? Awesome book. Jose Villa, my friend, he writes some book on photography, and being
it is an amazing book.
The photography, but you're right. The photographer book needs. I think the more that we focus on the photographer that we need to be, the niche of and the person we want to be, that specialization will become clear, and we'll start to see like, you know what, like that's who I want to be, and that's what I want to do becomes from that, and then all of a sudden you'll have clarity about what you want to do in life because you know who you are and what you want to be, and like we were talking about before the show, you'll know what you don't want to do because
that's right.
I'm sure you're like me. I have business cards at businesses I shouldn't have started because I didn't have time to do them all.
Right. Well, that's it. And I honestly, if you are at home and you're watching this conversation and you're like, gosh, I do need help with this, just go get it. I think it'll be really helpful. And if you don't want to get it, because I mentioned this, I wanted to finish this sentence. If you don't want to buy it because I endorsed my own book or Mike said what he said, then skip that. The only other book I can think of, though, in the industry that would be especially helpful in this conversation is a book called Vision Mongers by my friend David Duchemin. And that's another great resource around the photographer, not just the photography. So hope that's helpful, you guys. Thanks again, Mike, for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
And we'll see all you guys soon, hopefully WPI. Mike, are you speaking at WPI this year?
Yes, although I'm not sure of the time. I don't have it offhand, but yes.
Okay. And I'm speaking as well, so hopefully if you guys are there, be sure to look us up and come by and say hi.
Cool.
Bye,
see
you guys.